Welcome back to Classic Nostalgia Shows, everyone. Tonight, we are stepping into a very different kind of television world, aren't we, Annie?
Absolutely, John. A world of flashing police cars, that distinctive monotone narration, the ever-present cigarette smoke drifting through office hallways, and honestly, one of the most influential crime dramas ever broadcast. It's a true classic.
Before the flashy modern procedurals we binge-watched today, before the gritty streaming crime series, even before endless forensic investigations and deeply serialized storytelling, there was a show that truly helped define what police television even meant.
And it's fascinating because it didn't rely on glamour or exaggeration, which was so prevalent at the time. Instead, it relied on something far more fundamental: procedure, the facts, the routine, and of course that iconic voice that became instantly recognizable to millions.
That show, of course, was Dragnet. And tonight, we're not just exploring how Dragnet succeeded on television, we're really digging into how it fundamentally changed television forever. It's a big claim, but I think we can back it up.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those foundational shows that you can trace so much modern TV back to. So, dim the lights, folks, and let's follow the facts right into this discussion.
To truly grasp Dragnet's monumental impact, we really need to set the scene, don't we? What was television looking like before it even arrived on the airwaves? We're talking late 40s, early 50s here.
Right. Television was still a very nascent medium. It was exciting, but it hadn't quite found its footing. Crime shows existed, sure, but they were a far cry from what we think of now. They were often incredibly exaggerated, highly theatrical, really melodramatic, and honestly, pretty loosely structured.
I remember watching some old clips, and the detectives were always these larger-than-life figures, you know? Hard-boiled private eyes, fast-talking adventurers, very stylized noir heroes straight out of the movies. It was all about the mood, the atmosphere, rather than any kind of real police work.
Exactly! The stories focused much more on creating an artistic vibe than on showing how an actual investigation unfolded. Police work, as it actually was rarely depicted. It was entertainment, absolutely, but it was entertainment shaped by Hollywood fiction, not by reality. And then, a creator came along who wanted something radically different.
And that creator, of course, was the incomparable Jack Webb, the driving force behind Dragnet. He had a vision that was incredibly specific, almost revolutionary for its time. He wanted realism, pure and simple.
It wasn't just entertainment disguised as realism, was it? He wanted actual procedural storytelling. He genuinely believed that audiences would respond to authenticity. Real police procedures, real investigations, real terminology, even real pacing, which frankly was audacious for television back then.
Totally unheard of. He insisted on stripping away all the glamour. Even emotions were often minimized, almost to the point of being non-existent in some scenes. What remained was this incredible structure, and that became the absolute foundation of something entirely new.
It's hard to imagine now, with so many shows trying to be gritty and realistic, but back then, it was a huge gamble. He took out all the bells and whistles and said, let's just show the process. And it worked.
Speaking of that structure, we have to talk about one of the most iconic elements of Dragnet, its narration style. That deadpan delivery, so controlled, so minimalistic. Jack Webb's performance as Sergeant Joe Friday became absolutely legendary.
And with it came one of the most famous phrases in television history. Just the facts, ma'am. Although, it's funny, the exact wording evolved a bit in pop culture, didn't it? I think he actually said, all we want are the facts, ma'am, or something similar, but just the facts is what stuck.
That's true, but the idea, the essence of it, became symbolic of the show's entire philosophy. No exaggeration, no speculation, just the evidence, laid bare. That phrase really came to represent an entirely new kind of storytelling.
Absolutely. One that prioritized logic over drama, procedure over emotion, and detail over spectacle. And what's really fascinating is how audiences responded. It was surprising, but they actually trusted it. They bought into that authenticity.
They really did, and that brings us to what Dragnet essentially created. It didn't just tell crime stories, it literally birthed a new genre, the police procedural. This was revolutionary.
Yeah, instead of focusing on the criminal mastermind or the glamorous detective, which was the norm, Dragnet zoomed in on the mundane but critical parts. The reports, the interviews, the evidence collection, the routine investigation steps. Every episode followed a structured pattern, and that structure became incredibly influential.
You see its influence everywhere today. I mean, nearly every modern crime show owes something to Dragnet. Think about investigative series, forensic dramas, courtroom procedurals, even those ensemble detective shows where everyone has a specific role. They all trace their lineage back.
It's wild to think that without Dragnet, television crime storytelling might look completely different. We might still be stuck in that melodramatic, private eye in a trenchcoat era. It truly set the template.
And a huge part of that template was its tone.
Dragnet's biggest innovation was this absolute commitment to realism over romance. Think about those earlier crime stories we talked about. The detectives were always clever, stylish, a bit rebellious, larger-than-life figures, weren't they? Oh, absolutely. They were the stars of the show, full of charisma. But Dragnet stripped all of that away. Joe Friday wasn't glamorous. He was methodical, sometimes emotionally distant, almost robotic in his delivery. He could be blunt, but he was always focused on the job.
This created a totally new kind of television hero, the professional. Not the adventurer, not the anti-hero, but the working expert. Just a guy doing his job, meticulously following the rules. That idea influenced decades of television characters that followed. It made the mundane compelling.
It certainly did. It shifted the focus from the individual's personality to the integrity of the process, which was a huge shift.
Another major innovation was Dragnet's almost documentary-style approach. It gave you that feeling you were watching something real unfold, which, for 1950s television, was really revolutionary.
Yeah, they used narration to set the scene and fill in details, often shot in real locations or incredibly realistic sets. There was minimal musical distraction, not like the sweeping scores of other dramas. The dialogue was structured almost like a police report. Even the pacing felt incredibly intentional. Nothing rushed, nothing exaggerated.
It really blurred that line between fiction and documentary in a way few shows had even attempted before. You felt like you were getting an inside look into the LAPD, almost like a public service announcement mixed with drama.
It's true. It lent an air of credibility to the whole thing. Audiences weren't just being entertained, they felt like they were getting a glimpse behind the curtain of law enforcement.
And speaking of realism, Dragnet was also one of the early television shows to truly treat its city as a character. Set in Los Angeles, it showcased the police stations, the city streets, the criminal neighborhoods, and everyday civilian environments.
But it wasn't the glamorous Hollywood version of Los Angeles, was it? It felt very grounded, very ordinary, workmanlike even. The city wasn't romanticized. It was just a place where jobs needed to be done, crimes needed to be solved.
Exactly. That gritty, almost unglamorous realism helped reinforce the show's entire identity. It grounded the procedural aspect in a believable, tangible world, which was another novel concept for the time.
It's like the city was another piece of evidence, another fact in the case, rather than just a backdrop for adventure.
That's a great way to put it, Annie, and it leads us to one of the most interesting aspects of Dragnet: how much audiences actually trusted it. I mean, this was an era before 24-hour news cycles, before true crime podcasts, before reality television, really. Many viewers had extremely limited exposure to actual police work.
Right, so when Dragnet presented itself as authentic, people really bought into it. And while it was, of course, a scripted drama, its serious, no-nonsense tone created a profound sense of authority. Viewers genuinely felt like they were learning something important.
That educational tone truly set Dragnet apart from other entertainment programs. It wasn't just escapism. It was almost like a civics lesson disguised as drama. It offered a window into a world that was otherwise quite closed off to the public.
And that trust built a loyal audience, I'm sure. They felt they were getting the real story, or at least a highly sanitized but believable version of it.
The influence of Dragnet is truly everywhere in modern TV. You can see its DNA woven into the fabric of countless shows, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. From police procedurals to legal dramas, forensic investigations, and those ensemble crime shows where each character has a specific role, they all owe a direct debt to Dragnet's structure. Shows that rely on step-by-step storytelling, detailing the how and the why, that's Dragnet right there.
Even huge modern franchises, like the long-running police dramas that have spawned multiple spin-offs, courtroom series that meticulously walk through legal arguments, or investigative anthologies, they all carry its influence. The very idea that a crime story should be built on process rather than sheer spectacle, that began with Dragnet.
It's wild to think about. It really shifted the paradigm from who did it to how did they find out who did it, which is a massive, massive change in narrative approach.
And speaking of how, we have to touch on Jack Webb's performance style as Joe Friday. It became instantly recognizable, almost a caricature, but it was so effective.
That controlled voice, minimal emotion, incredibly precise delivery. To some viewers, it might have felt stiff or even a bit wooden, I imagine, but to others, it felt profoundly believable and authentic for a dedicated police officer.
He wasn't trying to entertain through personality, was he? He was trying to represent professionalism, duty, and the rigid adherence to protocol. That distinction mattered, and it created one of television's most iconic characters. Sergeant Joe Friday became a symbol of order and structure in what was often portrayed as a chaotic world.
He truly did. It was a performance that was utterly committed to the show's core philosophy. No frills, just the job.
So Annie, considering all we've discussed, why do you think Dragnet still matters today, in our incredibly saturated and diverse entertainment landscape?
Well, John, I think it's because it fundamentally changed the grammar of television storytelling. Before Dragnet, as we said, crime stories were often theatrical, exaggerated, almost fantastical. After Dragnet, crime stories became procedural. That shift, that simple but profound change, reshaped television for generations to come.
It also introduced a storytelling philosophy that, frankly, still dominates today, that audiences are deeply interested in the process, how things are done, step by step, the meticulous uncovering of information. That's a powerful and enduring legacy.
It's like it taught us how to appreciate the mechanics of a story, not just the dramatic outcome. And that lesson is still being applied in countless genres.
Now, of course, no show is without its criticisms, and Dragnet certainly had its share. Some viewers found it overly rigid, emotionally distant, even repetitive in its structure. It wasn't for everyone.
Yeah, later generations of television definitely evolved towards more emotional complexity and character-driven drama, moving away from that stark, minimalist approach. But even critics of Dragnet often acknowledge its sheer importance, don't they?
They do. Because innovation often comes from simplicity, and Dragnet's simplicity was in fact its greatest strength. It was a deliberate choice that carved out an entirely new path.
It shows that sometimes stripping things back to their core can be the most revolutionary act of all.
Absolutely. And that procedural format, which Dragnet helped create, became one of television's most enduring and adaptable structures. It taught writers so much.
It really did. How to build episodic tension, how to structure investigations, how to balance intricate detail with a compelling narrative, and how to ground what is essentially fiction in a veneer of realism. Even shows far removed from police work borrow its structure today. The whole idea of case of the week storytelling, that exists because of Dragnet's influence.
It's truly remarkable how one show could lay such a foundational blueprint. It just proves the power of a clear vision and a commitment to a distinct style.
It absolutely does. Dragnet might have started out as just a simple police drama, but it really did end up reshaping the entire landscape of television storytelling.
It replaced glamour with procedure, fantasy with realism, and exaggeration with structure. And in doing so, it created a new kind of television language that we still understand and use today.
So the next time you're watching a modern crime drama, with its detailed investigations, those step-by-step procedures, and that methodical pacing, just remember, you're seeing the direct legacy of Dragnet. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It absolutely is, Annie. Thanks for joining me tonight on Classic Nostalgia Shows. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment sharing your favorite classic crime show, and let us know which television legend we should explore next.
Yeah, we love hearing from you all. Until next time, everyone, keep the classics alive.